Hello and welcome to episode 53 of the Clackmanshire Women for Independence podcast. Music this week from Ross Bugden. This is Ghibli's Waltz. Well, we have been waltzing around quite a bit this week. We've had a coffee Zoom and a Bridges for Indy session. We managed to do a tie-up with the James E live show on Indyliveradio on a Saturday morning, 10 till 1. There's your plug, James. And we'll bring you some highlights from that later on. After all the drama of the Internal Market Bill last week, it's been a bit quieter with Holyrood in recess for the October holidays. Just a couple of things that caught my eye. The first is just a very short clip, or a very ominous question that Carol Moynihan asked sinister middle-aged schoolboy and Westminster Education Secretary Gavin Williamson this week.
I was delighted to hear last week that Scottish Tories now support the SNP's policy on free university tuition, and I'm sure the Secretary of State will welcome this U-turn. But can he confirm that the Internal Market Bill will not undermine the ability of the Scottish Government to set university fees in Scotland or to continue providing free university tuition?
The Honourable Lady seems to always miss the point that we live in a united kingdom of four nations together where there is one single market, and we have to ensure there is efficient and a proper use of that market so that all four nations properly benefit.
Notice he didn't even use the word devolution there. This will be something to keep an eye out for. Perhaps Cockeyed Cummings has been holding another of his focus groups. Are they going to keep talking about the single market and this united kingdom and just obliterate any references to the devolved parliaments or the other nations of the UK? The other thing I spotted was in another podcast that I really enjoy listening to. It's Inside Politics from the Irish Times. You get a different perspective on what's going on in the UK and also what's going on in America and Europe. Last week's episode was entitled, Can America's Awful Politics Be Fixed? Now you can get the full episode on SoundCloud or on the irishtimes.com website, and I would definitely recommend you listen to it. It's a really interesting discussion. Hugh Lenihan's guest on the podcast was Stephen Levitsky, Professor of Government at Harvard University, who has written a book called How Democracies Die, which is about how democracies can gradually wither from within, which sounds like it could have parallels in the UK as well as America. And I must put it on my list of interesting books to read, a list which is not getting any shorter, I can tell you. The bit that caught my attention in particular, though, was when they were discussing the lack of democracy in the United States. Here's what they said.
You have gerrymandering in the House of Representatives, where the Democrats need to get a majority of 7 or 8% of the popular vote to be guaranteed of a majority there. And then you have a president who's appointing a number of people to lifetime appointments in the Supreme Court. The whole system, to use the words of Donald Trump, seems rigged.
Well, it is, but it's rigged by accident. I mean, very quickly, the U.S. system from its beginning, by design, is heavily biased towards underpopulated states. The difference between sparsely populated states and heavily populated states was not that great in the 18th century, so it was a reasonable thing to do. But the difference grew. The difference between Wyoming and California now is vast, and it's something that would have been unimaginable and I think unpalatable to the founders back in the 18th century. Even so, the heavy bias in the Senate, in the Electoral College, and because the Senate approves the Supreme Court nominees, the Supreme Court is also biased towards sparsely populated territories. For 200 years, that didn't matter very much because both parties had an urban wing and a rural wing. So neither party was disadvantaged by this bias towards sparsely populated territories. Only in the last 20 years or so, the Republicans have become overwhelmingly a rural party, and the Democrats have become overwhelmingly an urban party. So that means, as you pointed out, that our institutions are heavily biased towards the party based in rural areas. The Democrats have to win the popular vote for the Senate by almost 7% in order to assure themselves a majority in the Senate. Democrats winning an election by 5 points isn't enough. It's the same thing with the Electoral College. Nate Silver calculates that if Biden wins by 3 points this year, which is a small but solid victory, he's very likely to lose the election. He needs to win by 5 or 6 points to assure himself victory in the election. So this was not malicious intent by the Republicans. This is a combination of constitutional design and demographic change that has produced this distortion. But what it means is the system is strikingly undemocratic, right? We are very, very susceptible to minority rule, which is, I think, going to necessitate some kind of institutional reform.
That got me thinking, in the context of the union that is the United Kingdom, that really explains why Cameron's promise that we would be a union of equals, assuming by that we mean that each part of the UK union has an equal vote or an equal say, could never have worked. I mean, a lot of folk in England already think that they subsidise Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. Just imagine how it would go down if anyone suggested that each of the 4 parts of the UK was going to get an equal vote or an equal say on things. From an English perspective, they would be looking at 10 million people in the other 3 bits, potentially ganging up and outvoting 60 million people in England. And when you look at it from that perspective, it doesn't make any sense. It's just ironic that the fundamental principle of a democracy, one person, one vote, is what the UK has, America is aspiring towards, and yet it doesn't work for us. It doesn't feel in Scotland as if that system works for us. You can kind of see why, in the context of the EU, where again you have disproportionate sizes and they each have a vote, how much effort goes into building consensus and getting something that everybody can live with. It's a very, very different thing from the adversarial politics that you see in America and in the UK. As Levinsky describes it.
What's happening now is that in the context of extreme polarization, in which the parties have come to see one another not so much as rivals, but as borderline enemies or as an existential threat, there's a temptation on both sides, although I think it's been asymmetric, it's stronger on the Republican side, to use all the tools available in order to beat the other side.
And we can see shades of that as well in the Tory party, from the prorogation of Parliament through to the internal market bill, completely ignoring a refusal of legislative consent to cheerfully admitting they're willing to break international law. And despite the wheeling out of Gordon Brown yet again to peddle the fantasy of a federal UK, England would never sign up to that. Why would they? You can see from the current battles going on between Westminster and the northern mayors that a Tory government cannot give up power. They cannot share power and they cannot respect devolution at any level. So on that basis, suck it up or independence is our only choice. But then, if you think about once we're in independent Scotland, we have the same issue really, because we have areas of Scotland that are very, very densely populated and areas that are very, very sparsely populated. So how do we make sure that all those places get an equal say? A federal Scotland perhaps? Or the Scandinavian model of lower level local representation dealing with most of the day-to-day stuff could be the way to go, with regional representation sitting in an upper tier of some kind, but acting in a consensual, cooperative way for the benefit of the country. Whatever we end up with, it's hard to imagine it could possibly be any worse than the situation we're in right now. We've also been cracking on with our Halloween-themed Yes Stones. If you keep an eye on our Facebook page, you will probably see pictures of them starting to appear between now and Halloween. Mine are currently in the garage waiting for a layer of varnish to dry, and once that's done, I will get them loaded up. And in our virtual coffee shop, our thoughts were turning to Halloween and what we might be able to do to make it special this year, even with the COVID restrictions.
The kids would probably get a kick out of it, and if you are able to watch who's coming, you know, if it's just a tiny little kid, that you just do something funny and not too scary.
No. That's when you really go for it.
Mean.
We've also got the fake cat out the front door as well, which has been there for months. To that, just the fact that this cat's sitting there spooks people anyway. But yeah, one of our neighbours' houses, I was walking back home the other day and dropped the car off for its MOT, so I walked back home and I came round the street, and one of the houses has already got its Halloween decorations up, and it's got a huge like spider's web running from above the door, like into the garden over one of the trees with giant spiders on it.
I don't need to put fake spider's web in. I've got plenty spiders.
I've got one just right across the back door at face level.
Mine are around my windows. It's like...
We were just saying that earlier, Irene, because I've been upgrading now. The plan is when we get our training all sorted out, I'll be doing like remote training, running it from home. And my boss said to me, "You can't have that as your background." I'm like, "Well, that is my background, isn't it?"
Oh dear.
Has anybody spotted anything in the Allo Advertiser about our litter pick? I had to look online yesterday, but I couldn't see anything.
I haven't, and I haven't bought one, but I will.
No.
I was going to go out and try and get hold of one to see.
Is it weekly or daily?
Yes,
weekly. Maybe it was. Maybe I was looking at last. Yeah. Oh well, that'd be all right. They actually had quite a lot of previous articles that mentioned community clear-ups and litter picks and all sorts. So I'll be, you know, they obviously like that kind of thing.
But it's something, you know, you're hearing about all these teenagers that are bored, and I can understand that. Yeah, they are bored. Well, why not go out and do something like that? It's easy to do. And I'm sure they'll get as much satisfaction as we got out of it. I mean, we were almost at the verge. We didn't want to stop because we spotted more litter somewhere else. And you
That was addictive.
That up too.
I loved your picture, Linz and Anne, that you sent us. Was that staged or was it an action shot?
Not at all.
No, it was, oops, we need a picture, and just stay over there.
And then I spotted some litter, so I was desperately trying to pick it up while Linz was taking the photograph.
Well, I've gone to the extent of actually ordering my own litter picker, because the ones they gave us were rubbish.
They're really flimsy.
Yeah, they were a bit iffy, weren't they?
Yeah, and I fed that back to them because I only handed 7 back. I think Tulare didn't give me 1 back because it had broken completely, but they were just too flimsy. They might have been okay if it was like nursery age kids using it, but we were like getting stuck in about bramble bushes and things and hiking things out. So
yeah, we were as well.
But they're not too expensive. I got one from more robust, but also much more comfortable hand grip. Oh well, so this Saturday we've got Bridges penciled in.
Yeah.
We'd scheduled in a few things for sort of autumn really. So we had Bridges was this weekend, and then we were going to do a litter pick at Gartmore Dam the following weekend. We had another litter pick scheduled, and the Halloween stones for the pumpkin trail.
We were talking about
the cookie exchange, St Andrew's Day stone cairn.
See, this is me. I don't think I could be creative with those Halloween stones, but I think I could cope with a St Andrew's Day stone. I could paint a flag on a stone.
Absolutely.
See the litter pick at Gartmore Dam? What time?
I can't remember. Hold on, I'll try to find out.
Well, listen, if it's on the Facebook page, then
I was going to put them on as they came nearer on as events, so you can see that way.
That's good. No, I kind of need to get catching up and get back involved with things.
Go on, Anne. You're going to say something?
I was just going to say, how can we do the bridges for Indy if it's more than 2 households?
Well, we're thinking it's a really wide bridge, so if we have 2 at one end and 2 at the other end.
All right, okay. You know, I can do it tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, if you can do it, if you're a maybe, Irene, I mean, I can do it. Are you up for it?
I can do it as well.
You know, you have 2 people from 2 households at one end, the other side of the bridge for the traffic coming the other way. So there you've got 8.
The last time we did it that Sunday, Fiona, there was just the two of us.
Yeah.
And that was enough. We stood facing the traffic coming towards the Clackmannanshire Bridge, but the traffic coming off, like the Kincardine and Clackmannanshire, could clearly see us as well because they were peeping at us. See that? It's so simple to do. I mean, literally, eyes and mouth, paint it orange, run some black lines down it, a couple of leaves on top.
Any special kind of paint?
I just use acrylic paint.
Reading Mark Drakeford's thing about closing the Welsh border this morning in The Guardian. A brave man, he's getting all manner of stick, but it's fascinating to watch.
Neil was saying last night, there's a whole load of Labour frontbenchers that have kind of resigned. They've been told to vote for the legislation that says criminal acts can be committed depending on who's doing it, type of thing.
They were supposed to abstain on the first reading so that they could then do amendments, but of course every amendment was voted down. So I think it's now passed, or it's in the process of passing. The Labour Party, the official line was to abstain on the final reading. So it must have passed, yes, so I beg your pardon. So it was 313 votes to 89 or something like that. So the SNP voted against it. I think the
Liberal Dems voted against it.
34 Labour MPs voted against the whip, included 6 frontbenchers who have all now resigned, so they've all gone to the back benches now. It's basically a purge of left-wing Labour. And what we're left with is this toothless opposition, this Keir Starmer pretendy opposition thing.
What is the point of abstaining? I'd never get that.
I don't think they should be allowed to.
No.
They've got a vote. They're supposed to stand up for their constituents.
Yeah.
One way or the other. The more they abstain, they say, well, we didn't vote for it. No, but you let it go through because you abstained.
But you didn't vote against it.
That is worse than at least you could say I voted against it. But no, I didn't vote at all. So what is the point in you being there to represent your constituents if you're not going to vote?
Exactly.
Absolutely. Because the message is loud and clear. If you abstain, you're not voting against it. Even if you know you're going to lose, if you have any principles, you have to vote against it.
Absolutely, yeah.
But actually, thinking about it, if the Labour Party were still the Labour Party, and I did put this on Facebook yesterday, if the Labour Party were the Labour Party, they would be calling for a general strike. You know, everybody just stop what you're doing, just forget doing any work, bring the country to a halt, and that's it, because what's going on is diabolical.
It is outrageous. And this is the problem with this 80-seat majority is, you know, even though we're talking about, the SNP should get a majority this year, I don't think majorities are good. I can see why they're easier for the party in charge, but they can steamroller through anything they like. I much prefer having to get a consensus and build, alliances across the place.
when everyone's equally unhappy, we know we've come to a consensus.
Yeah. The other thing I started thinking about was January would come out of the transition arrangement. And who knows what's going to happen then? I mean, it's entirely possible that there's going to be, transport disruption and food disruption and everything. So it's potentially an opportunity for us to try and plug into some kind of support network or something.
Neil was talking about, he said, you should see the pictures of Kent now. It's like Portaloos everywhere. And
it looks hideous.
You get the people of Kent going, well, that's not what we voted for. Mm-hmm. There's been a kind of leak of a letter that Nicola Sturgeon supposedly sent to the EU.
Yeah.
Oh, what's she saying?
Just about supporting us post-Brexit and sort of possible re-membership and whatnot. I think all of these things have been going on since 2016. There have been negotiations going on in the background, and they cannot make anything public, because the minute you make it public, Westminster will pounce on it.
Yeah. And as soon as we get to January as well, all the gloves are off and they can do what they like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this time last January, which seems like 100 years ago, remember when we were outside Holyrood, Anne, and we're coming out of the EU, and I mean, I was thinking, what a horrible start to the year, and it's just got unremittingly worse since then.
I didn't realise that was the best it was going to
I know, it's just been hideous. I was thinking, next January, it's hard when you can't travel anywhere and the weather could be crap and everything else, but to just not mark it in some way just seems as if we're kind of acquiescing, but the trick is finding something we can do that makes an impact that's doable.
Yeah, it's
it is. It's the visibility thing, though, that kind of almost like flummoxes us the most, isn't it? Or disadvantages us, that you can't be seen so much. Even though, to be fair, you could still have 200,000 was in a march, and the press wouldn't cover it anyway. But the rest of the people that were there would actually see that.
Yeah, that was the thing that Leslie Riddick had said on that day in January. The foreign press, there was about 90 of them, because they knew that whatever was going on that day, that was the story. And it's the same thing in January. Whatever happens on the 2nd of January or the 3rd of January, that's going to be the story.
But it's fairly obvious that we don't have a press. We have a propaganda unit. That's basically what we have.
More and more people are seeing this now, and they were talking about the fact that the poll was 58% for independence. That's kind of like unheard of for them to give them that sort of time, but it's almost as though, right, the tide has turned. If we're not on that side, we're going to look stupid and we're going to lose all these people. I listened to Daytime show with Val and Marlene, and they were talking to other kind of older people. And
the pensioners panel.
We've got a hard task, because it's our job to convince other people our age that actually the right thing to do is to vote for independence.
I wonder if now, since it is at 58%, then the next tack is going to be about, the sort of subtle, you don't need to vote because it's a given.
Oh, they'll try anything.
See, they've got nothing left.
I think they have something huge left. I think they'll suspend Holyrood in January, and there will be no Scottish election in May.
That's the nuclear option, isn't it?
I still think that. I've always thought that. As soon as I saw that Brexit was on the horizon, I thought that Holyrood was on limited time.
Well, we're going to have to get out on the streets when that happens.
Oh, there's going to have to be riots.
Yeah.
That's right. It's horrible. It's really horrible. But we cannot.
Yeah, but where do we riot, though?
Obviously in our houses, socially distancing. That's what we can do.
Oh, I'm sure there's some farmers who'd happily dump some manure out front.
Right, that's what we need to be thinking about the next couple of months. Tactics for socially distanced riots.
We could do that with a chlorinated chicken.
Trebuchet.
Can you knock up a trebuchet, Neil?
See when you're finished on the shed.
Oh, it's worrying. We could put a light in our windows. That would be a good way. Keep a light on.
Whoever's coming tomorrow 11 o'clock, car park.
Stay safe, Tracy.
Yes. We're here Saturday morning again, and this time we're at the Pine and Oak snack bar, and we're just about to head up for a bit more bridge work. It's a beautiful day. We've been really lucky with our Saturdays so far, and this time we're trying to hook up with the James E show for a Zoom call at 11:30, so that's going to be interesting. You might just hear traffic and whistling gale, but we'll give it a go. You never know. Good morning.
2 meters.
That's about 2 meters, is it no? Good morning.
Hiya. What have you got then?
Right, we're going to do another unscientific poll. Morning. I know.
You know, I think even if people disagree with your politics, there's no reason to be rude. Yeah, we'll try.
Do you want more, just for extra safeness?
No, this will be fine.
Day. See, we've literally just got to the top of the bridge, and already we're getting I've got loads. Yeah, here you go. Morning. I never really appreciated the sheer variety of car horns that there are out there. It's a little compilation. not everybody can come to every activity that we do. Some of our group are still semi-shielding, others rely on lifts, and of course we can't do any car sharing at the moment. Whenever we're out and about, we try and do a live stream back to our Facebook page, so at least people can see what we're up to and hopefully feel a bit involved, even if they can't be there in person. In last week's podcast, I explained that I managed to live stream picture but no sound. Well, this week I managed to live stream sound with a picture that was upside down and on its side. So still a work in progress, but I have put an edited version onto our Facebook page, and it is also in the Clacks WFI playlist on the Indyliveradio YouTube channel if you want to have a look at it without a bout of seasickness.
Hello, we're up on our bridge again, doing another Bridges for Indy, and as you can hear, I hope you can hear this time, that was a big lorry. Beautiful day, lovely October day up here. Doing a quick Facebook live stream. You want to say anything to our group? Hello Facebook group, how are you? If anybody wants to listen into Indyliveradio at 11:30, we're hoping to be doing a live Zoom call on the James E show, so do join us, that would be lovely. In the meantime, we'll get back to the peeps. Probably about the same percentage of positive peeps, so it's all good. Right, we will catch you later. Bye.
Meanwhile, back in the Indyliveradio studios, the James E show was in full swing. I had checked in with him before I set off just to confirm that it was still on. And what had he lined up as the first song for a show that's going to include a live broadcast from a bridge? That's right, Van Halen's Jump. And luckily we saw the funny side.
Fiona and the rest of the Clacks Women for Independence, who are out doing their Bridges for Indy thing this morning, and in a couple of minutes we're hoping to be able to speak to them in a Zoom call. As I mentioned previously, I'm not sure if anyone has ever done a Zoom call to someone out in the field, as it were, but we're going to give it a wee try today and see what occurs. We may have to do a little bit of tweaking with the sound on this.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you now. Welcome to the Saturday show, Fiona and the ladies from Clacks Women for Independence. How are things up there on the bridge?
Well, they're windy. And as you can probably hear, we're getting lots of feet still. Slightly less traffic than we've had in previous weeks. I don't know if that's the travel restrictions.
I think it might be a combination of that, and also I believe there's a small matter of a football match today at some point, which might result in less people on the roads.
Oh, never thought of that. Of course, we don't track football.
So, how's the weather for you?
The weather's lovely, actually. It's a little bit of sun, little bit of blue skies, a little bit of cloud, but it's dry, which is the important thing, and just beautiful autumn colours, and wherever you look you can see hills. I love being on this bridge.
Yeah. I did look, I seen that you'd put a couple of pictures up on our Discord channel a little while ago, and it was certainly looking pretty good.
That was a bit cloudy then, but it's certainly brightened up, but as I say, less traffic, but we're still getting plenty of peeps, but also quite a lot of people just wave.
Yeah. No, that's good. I must admit, it's not something I've done, one of these Bridges for Indy events, but whenever I've seen anybody sort of tweeting about them or, commenting about them on Facebook, they always seem to have very positive feedback from the public, as you say, beating their horns, waving, all that kind of thing. Have you had any kind of negativity so far?
None at all, nothing. I mean, the one thing I keep remembering is these aren't activists. This is just people driving in their cars on a Saturday, and they're peeping. Uh-huh. So it's not as if they're just looking and going, oh yeah, I agree with that. They're actually doing something. They're making a noise.
I must admit, if I was driving past, in fact I have done so in the past, somebody on a bridge, doing something like that, then I usually beat the horn and give them a wave as well. I think it's a nice thing to do, whether or not, you're 100% committed to it. I think it's just a nice thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing, some of we were just saying, some of the smallest cars have got the biggest horns, which is often the way. But it always gives us a lift if you get something like a bus or an ambulance or, you know, a big lorry once, because they've got quite cool horns.
I just had a little thought actually before we went on air there. You know how there's the long walk to freedom that's going on at the moment. Do you know? Are they going to sort of come past your part of the country?
Oh, I did have a look. I think they go Stirling and Dunblane way, but I don't think they came through Clackmannanshire. Hold on, you know, the long walk to freedom. Yeah. I wonder how close they come to us. Because you could do a sort of bridges. Is that what you're thinking, James?
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
I'll have a look. They have got a website, so I'll have a look. And if they're coming anywhere that we can reasonably get to, we'll try and get there with some flights. Yeah. Here's Lynn. Say hello, James.
Hi, James.
Yeah, hello, Lynn.
Having fun this morning. It's quite quiet traffic-wise.
Yeah.
You can hear we're getting lots of peeps.
Good,
and
good.
I've been doing totally non-scientific polls. B-signs, but for every B-sign I've had 20 plus people like smile at me, give me the thumbs up, shoot their horn, flash their lights. So and all I wave back to them anyway, so the people in the cars think that they have a positive sign.
Well, I always remember my granny always used to say to us, it's nice to be nice, you know, so if somebody smiles at you or waves at you, I believe that you should smile and wave back to them, do you know what I mean, regardless.
I kind of think while we're standing here holding this flag, you know, our behaviour matters.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was going to say, because we were talking about the whole long walk to freedom thing, and if they're coming past yourselves and you can do a sort of event like this for them, if it falls on a Saturday, we could maybe grab them, you know, I don't know if they're willing to stop and, you know, do a quick call like this on the Saturday show and get them on air.
I think that's a really good idea, and we do have a contact,
good.
which I'll tell you about after this, because I don't think you'll be able to hear.
Well, listen, it was really, really good to speak to you. Enjoy the rest of it, ladies. And I'm surprised that this has actually worked, because honestly I thought it might not work because of where you were going to be.
Yeah, it is quite hard to hear unless you've got the phone right up to your ear, but I mean, you get the idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, you ladies enjoy the rest of your time there on the bridge.
We'll catch you later.
Okay then, have a good one.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Well, there we go. How about that? That was the Clacks Women for Independence Bridges for Indy event there, and that was our first attempt at an outside broadcast Zoom call. I think it went okay. I'll need to listen back to it actually, if I'm being honest, so that I'm just having to readjust the levels on the mixer here, because obviously with it being an outdoor thing and traffic going past, we had to kind of play around with the settings a little bit. I'll get a chance to listen back to it, and hopefully it was sounding okay for you all. But that was really great.
So after our start-turn on the James E show, we went back to our bridge, and having said to James we hadn't had any negative feedback, as if by magic, we did get one guy who cycled past us and muttered, "Get a life." And what was odd about that was previous time we were on the bridge, a different guy had cycled past and used exactly that phrase. And I thought that's an odd phrase to use, because we're clearly both on the same bridge. So why is it that them cycling on the bridge is living and us standing on the bridge waving a flag is not? It's weird. But sadly, both of them were from that generation of men who seem to think it's okay to tell women what to do and how we should be spending our time. And although it's pretty clear that they have yet to be converted to the Yes movement, I would have to say that whatever it is they're currently supporting is making them miserable. So maybe they should think again.
Well, it's 20 to 12 now.
Definitely a lot quieter.
Much quieter. Well, what James was saying was there's the big football match on today, so maybe people are watching that.
You know, to live
fact that it's holidays as well. I mean, the fact that people just go, right, we're not going out.
The volume is much less, but probably the percentage of peeps with the volume's about the same.
And it's the ones that you think, you're a drone, you're a downtrodden working bee, and you're giving me the Vicky, really?
It's just that sort of ignorance and brainwashing, though. They probably read The Sun. We'll interview him.
But apart from that one negative person, everybody else we met on the bridge was really friendly, and we stopped and chatted with them all.
Were you here last year too?
Last year?
Aye.
No, not last year, but
the year before.
But
it might not be here, just go for a power walk,
a power walk. Good for you.
For your power walks then?
It's probably about 4 miles.
That's good.
It just could be the village. That's all. You had a heart attack.
It's a nice bit to get out and do your power walking though.
Well, we missed you, see?
Yeah.
I
know.
I'll see you later, eh?
Bye now.
Just making your point.
Just making our point on a beautiful October day.
Well, you're preaching to the converted here.
Good stuff.
We do lots of non-scientific polls, like how many people give us rude gestures to how many people give us positive gestures.
All right, well, we're from over Clackmannanshire. I'm Dollar, and they're of Alloa, so.
You've got the by-election coming up.
That's right. Yes, yes. Be interesting. We'll see. It's hard to tell with Dollar.
Yes. It's a bit of a noisy spot you've chosen.
Well, it is, but
there's no traffic coming over here, so
it's
quite
safe.
standing up here.
And you're not causing a distraction because they can see for miles, you know. So it's just trying to be safe, and it's easy to distance. Well, that's why we do it, because somebody gets a lift out of it.
But you know what? It gives us a wee boost as well when you see the cars going
that's right. I know it
Yeah.
makes you feel good.
Alternate it with litter picking, so we're doing something good as well, you know. That's right. Litter pick for Indy.
So you'll know Anne then, right?
No, Anne very well. She's often up here with us.
Right, so she's got a chest of drawers of mine at the moment and getting sorted out.
Oh well, we'll say hello.
It's all good recycling through nationalist circles. That's excellent.
Definitely.
Right, we done then.
Well, enjoy your cycle.
Enjoy yourself as well, please. I'd say on the whole, pretty positive.
I would say so. And then when you get people stopping and chatting, that's really nice. Well, job done.
I'm definitely far more positive than negative.
Oh,
but
definitely.
That's always been the case.
Yeah, but nice to stop and have a chat with folk as well. That's quite good. Oh, look at that view! Isn't that beautiful?
Yes, it is. The colours are lovely.
As long as it's not raining.
Yeah.
Follow your phone. I need to show you a photograph. I put it up on the cage. But if it's like this for next week, we'll just. Are you okay to get more pickers?
Yes, I'll organise the stuff. And I'll see if they've got anything that's a bit more
sturdy.
Substantial.
Well,
Say, look, because I said to the guy that came and picked them up, but I'd already emailed Ram and said, look, they were very flimsy.
Yeah.
So if it's just a case I can just go in the day before and pick it up.
Yeah. See you later. Oh. Oh. well, that was fun. We managed to get a live stream with James. I'm not sure how it'll have come across, but we'll find out. So, I should put this off for now and go and get a bacon roll.
Well, and that's about it for this week. Next week, we're hoping to be at Gartmore Dam for another litter pick, so weather's not looking great, but if we manage to do that, we'll bring you some update from there as well. And this morning, I just had a phone call from the Alloa Advertiser, so hopefully we're going to have an article in that this week, which is great because if you'll recall, what we were trying to do with these activities, as well as have a bit of fun and do some good for the community, is also to be visible. Hopefully we'll get a good write-up. And finally, if you're listening to this at 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning, which is its first scheduled play of the week on Indy Live Radio, you might be interested to know that at 2 o'clock this afternoon, that's Tuesday afternoon, we are having an Indy Live Radio open house, which you're very welcome to join us for. Indy Live Radio has a Facebook page and a Facebook group. We have an Indy Live Radio team meeting on a Tuesday afternoon at 2. So what we're going to do is try streaming some of it anyway, perhaps only 15 minutes of it, to see if anybody wants to get involved and have a chat with us and get a bit more engagement going with our listeners, or even more importantly, our potential listeners. So with my Indy Live Radio hat on, I would welcome you to join us for that. And with my Clacks WFI hat on, I'll just say thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye now.
In life.